Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session of the Game Plan at AWS reInvent, produced by Tagboard. I have two very special people with me who have made all of this possible. Yes, the Game Plan, that's what I'm talking about. We are here at the Sports Forum, and rushing over from the Venetian is Christine Chalk. She is the Chief Product Officer for Tagboard, and then I have Bryan Samis, who is a solutions architect with AWS. Guys, first of all, thank you so much for including me in this project. It's been such a fun week. How has it been for you guys over in the Venetian?
It's been great, pretty seamless. Nice to step outside of the glass box for a minute, but not used to being on this side of the camera.
Well, we'll make it work, make you as comfortable as possible as you've been listening to these all week long. Christine, you've been at Tagboard for nearly a decade, right? But before that, you get your start in news. What was that like, and how is it so much different now?
Yeah, it's been really fun. So like you said, I got my start in broadcast news. I was a overnighter on a morning show working the graveyard shift and got the opportunity to see what production was like, and in many ways what it is still like. But I got the opportunity to be a client of Tagboard's before I was an employee of Tagboard. So I started to see glimmers of what the future of production was going to look like, what it would be like when it moved into the cloud, how much more efficient, nimble, creative producers would be able to be. Ultimately made the jump over. Like you said, I've been at Tagboard now for almost 10 years. Production did not look like this when I was in news. It was large control rooms, multi-million-dollar sets of hardware, massive trucks had to buy satellite time. And so what we're able to do here now is really incredible.
And Bryan, how did you get your start at AWS, and what does your role sort of look like on a daily basis?
Sure. I've been at AWS for almost 10 years now. I was working for a small transcoder company that made equipment that was used by a lot of live streaming companies and cable and satellite providers. And about 10 years ago, I decided to take the leap and join AWS. And I've had a couple of roles within AWS. I started supporting our elemental products, which were kind of in the same space that I had been working in previously. And then about 4 years ago, I switched over to working with our media and entertainment team. So I've been working with a very, very broad set of customers on essentially moving live video workloads into the cloud, all the way from production, like what we're doing here, to things like linear channel playout and distribution, like you might see in a more kind of traditional television channel.
Right. And Christine, Tagboard is putting all of this on, but people might not necessarily know what Tagboard is. So can you just explain what the company does? And I'm sure they're seeing it right now, but a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, absolutely. We joke that Tagboard's that company. We have our fingerprints on everything, but our face is on nothing, right? We work with hundreds of organizations, primarily across media, sports, and entertainment, to power cloud-based graphics. So everything from broadcast television, we work with all of the major networks, hundreds of local news, national news, to sports, stadium screens, digital productions, video podcasts, as well as websites and mobile apps, anywhere you see the internet. We're a cloud-based graphics engine that allows you to intake all different types of rich data sets. It could be sports data, live sports data. It could be interactive gamification, polls and trivia. It could be social data, real-time content coming from social networks, you name it. We bring that data into our platform, and we're really user experience first. So the simplest, easiest, most efficient way for someone to build a beautiful graphic and get it on broadcast. So now we are doing hundreds of thousands of shows every single year and powering, billions of impressions and different interactions. So today, all the screens you see here are running through our graphic system.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit, because I'm here, you're, a sprint away. You were sprinting over here to make your time for the show. So how is all of this, the game plan, working?
Yeah, so back in the production control room, the PCR, the fishbowl, as we call it, over in the Venetian, we've actually got 3 people running there. So we have Grabyo. We've got our awesome technical director, Craig, who is switching the show, running switching audio playback. We've got our awesome graphics operator running Tagboard, so all of the different graphic overlays you see here, as well as the monitors for those, who are able to come check out the sports forum, all of the monitors running interactivity, gamification, real-time content upload. And we've got our amazing producer, EP extraordinaire, who is directing and calling the show, Bryan, there. And those 3 people, and then of course you are the magical fourth. This wouldn't happen without you here on the desk. We are putting together this whole production. Over the course of 4 days, everything's happening in the cloud, and we are doing just shy of 25 shows with those 4 people. And the part that a lot of people don't necessarily see is we're actually outputting every show into 2 versions. We've got a 16:9, more traditional broadcast with more classic broadcast graphics, as well as a 9:16. It's the same 3 folks who are cutting, switching, and flying, but they are 2 uniquely different shows. They have completely bespoke graphics packages. They have their own graphics. They have their own camera shots, layouts, you name it, to show the power of how we can version things out and be flexible. And so close to 50 shows being output here with 4 people.
Incredible, yeah. Bryan, what is some of this technology that's allowing all of this to happen?
Yeah, I mean, the really amazing thing about this show, as you know, in my mind, is that all of the stuff it took to put this on, we literally brought in like 1 Pelican case.
Yeah.
We brought some cameras, we brought some microphones, we brought some little computers to run the displays in the control room.
Right.
But really, we don't have any, large equipment here. There's actually, I don't think there's any individual piece of equipment that costs more than about $1,000 that we're using,
Wow.
to create this show. So it's really kind of showing the democratization of video and how you can use tools like Tagboard, tools like Grabyo that are running in AWS in order to put on pretty nice looking shows that have pretty good production value and pretty good quality at a fraction of the cost and with much, much more flexibility than was ever possible when you had to, lug giant cases and racks around with you to run these types of productions.
Well, I remember we had a client one time who told us when something would break in the middle of the show and they needed to update a graphic, they would write it on a piece of paper, tape it to a football, and throw it to the anchor on the desk, because that was the fastest way to get information from here to there, to update graphics on the fly. And now here we are, we're here.
Right.
Like you said, the control room is a 15-minute walk, maybe a 15-minute brisk jog if you're short like me, and that wouldn't be possible, and yet we are updating graphics on the fly, rolling with the punches, and able to be so nimble, and shows like this just wouldn't have been possible without some of this technology.
Right.
And if I can interject, like another really cool thing is that the control room happens to be 15-minute walk away for the sake of being able to show it and to be able to tell the story. It doesn't have to be there. The control room could have been somewhere else.
Christine could
It could
be
be
home in Orange
across,
County. Yeah.
halfway across. Next year, I'm doing this from the comfort of my own couch.
And in fact, all of the operators could have been in different places.
Absolutely.
We could have had Craig, running the show from home. We could have had, Bryan calling the show from, from his home or from a hotel or something. They're all in one place because it's convenient for us to be able to show people what it looks like and how to tell the story. But the technology really allows the people to be anywhere, which really opens up a lot of doors and a lot of flexibility and a lot of resource utilization that kind of wasn't possible in the previous world.
Well, and Christina, I feel like we've talked about it all week, but what are some of those pros outside of that with cloud-based production?
Absolutely. So like you said, it's flexibility, it's resource.
Right.
And we hear a lot of people who are saying, oh, do more with less, do more with less. But I like to look at it as how can you do more with what you have? So we have, today we're putting on this showcase of how do I put out horizontal and vertical. But imagine how you could translate that into alternate versions for your programming.
Right.
Maybe you're putting on, we had Ruth Buss come on here yesterday talking about F1. Maybe I'm doing an F1 program, and I want to be able to do a version that is a clean feed for a more traditional viewer who doesn't want tons of visuals. And I want to do a hyper-powered stats, all of the telemetry, all of the expert data. And I want a third version that's for a rookie fan who doesn't really know how F1 works and has a completely different graphics package to start to bring them into the sport. That used to require 3 distinct control rooms, 3 graphics operators, 3 TDs, and now you could do all of that with a laptop and a great internet connection, right? Or you want to create Teamcast. Some of our partners, TNT Sports, are so great at doing this for March Madness, where they put out graphics for the 2 distinct teams.
Right, so there's a home team and a away team, and if you're a fan of either, you can go see what they want.
Exactly, and so fans want more and more personalization, and before that was really hard and it required tons of resources. But now that you can spin those up quickly, the producer in me is so excited about it, because if you have an idea, it's like, great, go try it. Here's a computer. You run that test and do that show.
Right.
And before, you couldn't have spun up a show like that.
Or spend that amount of money to even run that test.
Yeah, because you didn't know if it was going to be if the ROI was going to be there and to get the initial upfront investment. But sales and marketing teams are so excited about it too, because every single one of those shows is a new opportunity for ad inventory. And so that becomes a whole new revenue stream.
Right.
that you can monetize and reach a really niche audience with each of those. I mean, Prime Video is so great at this with Thursday Night Football and how there are different alt casts, and you tune into the one that is, reaches you where you're at.
And what does the partnership between Tagboard and AWS look like?
Tagboard is an AWS partner, and they've been a great partner with us. We've worked with them on a lot of projects for many customers. So really, what Tagboard means to AWS is having a great partner who really enables our customers to be able to not only scale, but to also be able to do things like experiment. Like I think you kind of touched on this previously, but when you have the ability to, say, create multiple renditions of a stream, like a 9x16, 16x9, but also the ability to create different graphics packages with different looks and feels, and different, you may be using the same raw footage to kind of tell slightly different stories for different audiences. That was something that previously you couldn't do, but with tools like Tagboard and with tools like AWS, you can very, very easily do that. You can even just experiment. You could say, hey, today we're going to do a cast that's targeting one specific demographic, and we're going to see how it does. And if it doesn't work out, we won't do it tomorrow. But we haven't invested any money in that, so if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul, and it allows people to experiment without the risk.
AWS has been such a wonderful partner. I mean, when you work at such high stakes with the types of clients, you need someone, it needs to be reliable every single time. The flexibility, the way that we can scale up to accommodate these different crazy ideas. But I love what you said about the experimentation, right? Back at NAB, the memory will be seared in my mind forever. When AWS came to us and said, we've got a crazy idea. What if we hooked up F1 simulators and ran a live broadcast and commentated the entire thing? And
you were one of the commentators.
Yes, and that's why it's seared in my mind forever. And we said, what if we went live every 15 minutes for every day of NAB? And, it was so much fun, and we learned so much in the process. And even through those experimentations, we came home and had ideas and said, hey, if we added this to our product, this would be a little bit easier for us to do this next time. And, we get to talk about our product all the time, but these types of opportunities are so fun to actually get to show it.
Right.
Eat our own dog food a little bit, get to do it. Some things you realize, that wasn't quite as easy as I said it was. Let's make it easier next time.
Right.
And so we all get better because of it, and we get the opportunity to really show what we can do.
Well, and were you going to add there?
I was going to say, and Christine was such a great F1 commentator that Ruth may want to be watching her back.
Watch out.
I love it. I want to dive a little bit deeper into the two versions of the stream that we're doing here, the 9x16 and the 16x9. Why is it important that you need both of those? Because it's a little bit of a loaded question. I consume all of my media on my phone. I'm on TikTok much more than I would like to admit, right? So where did you see the need for this?
Well, nowadays, viewers have so many options. It is so competitive to be able to hold someone's attention. You need to meet them where they are, and you really need to tailor your programming for that viewer. When you watch on TikTok, you want a different experience than when I watch on broadcast.
Right.
Even something as simple as the safe zones are incredibly different. If I were to try to take the same broadcast version and serve it to you on TikTok, it's not going to be a great experience for you.
Right.
You need different graphics. You want to be spoken to different. The tone needs to be different in your presentation. And I think of each story as they're really kind of three. There are three stories in every broadcast, right? There's the pictures themselves. What are you actually showing? There's the host, what are the words that they're saying, there's the auditory story, and then there's the graphics on top of it. And you can change any one of those and make an entirely different story. But not every viewer is watching all the time. Maybe they're preparing dinner and they're listening to more of the story than they're watching. Not every viewer is listening. Some of them are
maybe in a bar.
Some of them are hearing the videos muted, to your point. They're at a restaurant, they're at a bar. And so I think about all three of those as a producer as a different layer to the story. And what is the experience like if they have all three, if they have two, if they have one, and how do I produce for them?
Interesting.
And so what's neat about this is two of those stayed the same. Right? We only have the cameras we have.
Right.
Our voices are not changing on any broadcast, but by changing just one of those layers, I can create a totally different story over and over and over again. And I can do that with those three same people. Michael's the only one who's changing up the graphics.
Right.
But we're able to create a totally unique experience that is going to hit you differently than, a different viewer who wants something a little bit different.
Where do you see this going? I mean, just based off of that and being able to change in the variety and variables that you can control now that weren't necessarily possible before, what does the future look like?
I think it starts to get really fun at the lack of, the broken record, what everyone's been saying all day. But when you start to layer AI into it, when you start to think about how can we personalize at scale using AI workflows in the cloud, I think that's the future where when I watch a football game, I want to see graphics that is my fantasy team down the left rail. And how can I hyper-personalize that for myself? One person can never switch that and, that many clients at once. But as we start to blend the power of cloud production with AI production workflows, I think we're going to be able to get to that state.
Bryan, what excites you the most?
I think it is the personalization aspect. I think we're going to end up in a world eventually where you and I are both watching the same game, but we're both seeing it kind of tailored to our specific tastes. For example, if we're watching a football game, maybe you want to see, stats and graphics and overlays like the first down line, and maybe I'm a purist and I just want to see, the overhead camera without all that stuff. I think we'll be in a world where all of the different angles and data and visualizations will be available to every viewer, and it will actually be, your phone or your TV or your client device and what it knows about your preferences that's kind of actually assembling them together into the experience that, that it thinks you will enjoy. That might be very different from what your next door neighbor is seeing when they're watching exactly the same cameras and exactly the same graphics.
What does that mean in terms of increasing scalability, and especially with the data that's coming in and different maybe data sources?
Scale is going to be paramount to that, right? Imagine today we're outputting two end pieces of content, a vertical and a horizontal. But the future that we're both
every
describing
fantasy football player,
it's infinite versions of outputs.
Every GM.
Yes. So scale is going to be so important to be able to version at that level and personalize at that level. It's going to be critical.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope that future comes true. And I mean, based off of what I've seen this week, I'm the novice when it comes to all this. My mind has already been blown, but I can't wait till that version of myself's mind's blown even more. Here on the game plan, as you know, since you're both so involved with the show, we have a thing called the 2-minute drill. We're going to rapid fire some questions for you, Christine. Are you ready to take on the challenge?
I'll do my best.
All right. We're going to have Bryan and Michael and Craig back there pull up the clock, and we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. What's more important, quality or speed?
Quality.
Why?
I come from broadcast news, right? Breaking news first was our sport. But if you're first and you're wrong, you're last. So
I love that.
Speed's
Very insightful.
Speed's important, but it can't come at the expense of quality.
Best innovation in graphics in the last 5 years?
My biased answer?
Tagboard.
Cloud-produced graphics. Cloud-native graphics engines.
What we're doing here. Okay, what's one thing in broadcast everyone should do, but most don't?
That's a good question. I think building around creating the best experience for your viewers versus building around the control room or the infrastructure you have. Oftentimes, we see producers and broadcast teams who are building based off the way things work in their control room, internal limitations, legacy hardware, instead of sitting down and saying, what would make the very best experience for our viewer, and how do we work backwards from there for how to get there?
All right, we're under a minute. Favorite part of cloud production?
Freedom, flexibility. I think it really put creativity back in the driver's seat to be able...
As it should.
Yes, to be able to say, you have an idea, let's scale up, launch it. You want to run 50 broadcasts in 1 week with 4 people, let's do it. So the freedom that it's allowed.
How would you describe your job in one word?
Say evolving.
Love that. Well, it has to be, right? Especially with the technology. Okay,
Never
20
a dull
seconds.
day.
20 seconds left. One piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
I'd say embrace change. Don't be afraid to challenge the way that things are done just because they've always been done that way.
I love it, Bryan. You crushed it. We're at 5, 3, 2, 1. There we go. You beat the timer
Somebody
by 5
did
seconds.
threaten me with a buzzer at 0, so I had to
And they
make
have
sure
the
I didn't hit
capabilities.
the buzzer. Yeah.
Brian, I want to ask you that question too. What is
Sure.
a piece of advice you would give your younger self if you were to look back and see that your journey led you here?
Yeah, I would say just keep learning. The technology is evolving extremely rapidly, and the way that we can add value for our customers is to just always stay on top of the technology, to understand the business problems that they're trying to solve, and figuring out how we can apply those technologies to solve their business problems. And if you can stay on top of the technology and you can stay on top of what your customers are trying to do, that becomes a lot easier to do.
I love it. Christine, at the forefront of the whole game plan is sports innovation, right? And as you know, we've been asking all of our guests, if innovation was a sport, the MVP right now would be what? I need your answer this time.
No surprise. I think the MVP would be AI and cloud-based production. I think the marriage of those two, alone they are both powerful, but together, that's the real powerhouse.
I'm really excited to see that too. Thank you so much. I know you guys have to run back to the control room to then do the remaining 2 shows that we have. So I really do appreciate you taking time and sprinting over here
It's been fun
to chat. I appreciate it so much. And thank you guys so much for joining us on this session of The Game Plan at AWS reInvent, produced by Tagboard.